Hello guys, I added a lot to the game I am currently working on. If you have not seen the previous parts which led up to here, make sure to check the first and second devlog. Some of the things I added are very important to make a good game, and I think it is already somehow playable after this. So what's new? Firstly, I made the enemy AI because enemies were still dumb. So now, enemies can either catch the ball or get hit by the ball if they don't catch it. An enemy can also randomly decide which player it's going to shoot the ball at. Secondly, team management for both the enemy team and the player team. So I can select a specific player I want to control, and the closest enemy to the ball in the enemy's team goes to pick the ball when necessary. Before this update, the enemies were just dummies, so I duplicated my player and gave it a different color. Let's just make it work for now, there will be better characters later. And I gave it the enemy tag. To avoid rewriting parts of the code on both the player and the enemy for what they can both do, I made them inherit from another class which has the basic code. So now, the enemy can also get damaged when hit by the ball like the player, can also lose when his health finishes just like the player, but that was still all he could do. So I gave the enemy the ability to move towards the ball and pick it up if it is in his area. For that, I separated the ground in two parts, one for the player, another for the enemy. And if the ball is on the enemy's ground, he moves towards it with the help of a navigation mesh and picks it up. After picking the ball, I gave him the ability to shoot it at the player, and then an error occurred. After shooting the ball, he tried again to shoot a second time. So I made a variable to check if he had not yet shot the ball to determine if he shoots or not. To make the enemy less dumb, I gave him the ability to catch the ball, just like the player can do, but triggered by another action. This is another reason why I used inheritance. And then another error occurred. The enemy tried to catch the ball twice, so I also checked if he wasn't already catching to determine if he should catch or not. Then I made the enemy decide randomly to catch or not. This was to make it a lot more realistic because the enemy should not be perfect. Secondly, team management for both the enemy team and the player team. For example, if there are 3 players in the player team and only 1 enemy in the enemy team, it shows like this. All the 3 players could still be controlled at the same time, so I had to fix that. Only one of them could pick the ball though, which was good. So I decided to select a player by clicking on one with the help of raycast from the mouse position. Then I added visual effects to show which player I selected. One of the problems was that if a player picked the ball and I tried to select another player, he dropped it. So I just made sure that I can't select another player if one of them already has the ball. Also, an unselected player could not pick the ball even if he touched it. To fix that, any player who touches the ball becomes selected and all the others are unselected. Then I duplicated the enemy to make an enemy team, and the team manager automatically collects all of them. Then another error was that various enemies tried to catch the ball at the same time. So I set their catching ability to false if they are not targeted by a player. Another trouble was that all the enemies tried to pick the ball at the same time. So I changed their behavior so that only the closest to the ball picks it up, and that made them a lot more intelligent.
Nice.
Also, the enemies changed targets various times before shooting because the instruction was executed in the update method, which is called each frame. So I just checked if the enemy didn't have a target already before trying to find one. And then there was no more hesitation. He just searched for a random target and shot the ball at the target. Sometimes the target was already eliminated, but the enemy still shot the ball at him, which made them look stupid. To solve that, I had to remove the references of eliminated players from their team so they can't be targeted anymore. But I couldn't do that because I was using an array, so I replaced the arrays of both teams to lists to have access to the function called remove. Then when a player was eliminated, his reference was removed from his team. From here, I think it is somehow playable, but to make it a good game, I have to make it more appealing, more interesting. So subscribe if you haven't already to see what will make this a better game, and click on the bell icon to receive a notification when the next video gets out. Thanks.